On top of the Yonko and the Admirals, the One Piece manga just revealed a whole new group of incredibly powerful fighters called the Holy Knights that might end up becoming the most powerful group of fighters in the entire story and the final enemies of the Straw Hats in their battle against Imu. And you won't believe all the crazy secrets about the identities of these mysterious fighters that are being set loose to destroy the worlds. Plus, we finally learn what happened during the Reverie, and we also see the true powers of the Revolutionary Army revealed in a battle so destructive it could have destroyed an entire island. But of course, we first have to start with these Holy Knights. Now, this group was actually first name-dropped in chapter 1054 when Akainu revealed that the Holy Knights are responsible for resolving disputes within the Holy Lands. Okay, but that could be a lot. So does that mean that they work for the Celestial Dragons, or can they even hand out justice to the world nobles themselves? I mean, either way, they must be pretty damn important, not to mention super powerful, to become the world government's ultimate warriors. And of course, if you're wondering if they're even stronger than the Admirals, well, stick around because we'll be discussing that in just a moment. First, in this chapter, we get this panel here of said Holy Knights, as Dragon says that with the Holy Knights making their move, the real battle starts for the Revolutionary Army as well. Now, we are learning in this chapter that these 9 knights are actually being sent out to literally destroy kingdoms that are currently rebelling against the world governments. And in case you're wondering, these 8 kingdoms actually decided to break off when they found out about what happened to this kingdom that you might remember was destroyed by this insane light attack in chapter 1060. Though I'll say, the fact that these kingdoms even know this information in the first place makes me wonder how they could have learned about the kingdom's destruction in the first place. I mean, did Sabo leak the information, or did the world find out some other way? Anyway, back to the Holy Knights. These 9 insane fighters are tasked with dealing with these rebel kingdoms, and we have to assume the worst here. Honestly, these kingdoms are probably going to be wiped out entirely, or at least the rulers will be killed and replaced. And that of course gives us a true hint of how strong these knights must really be. Since there are 9 knights and 8 rebel kingdoms, I'm wondering if each knight will take out one kingdom, or if they will work as a group together and go from one to the next. But personally, I think that if these knights are actually as powerful as we hope they are, then surely they'd be able to take out a normal country on their own. I mean, Sanji's brothers basically took out an entire kingdom themselves with just the help of some clones, so I do like to think that the Holy Knights have to at least be that strong. And since Sanji's brothers were also able to take out some of Big Mom's strongest children, that puts these knights at least on the level of a Yonko commander. At least. And if they're actually meant to later match up with the Straw Hats, then they better be at least this strong, or they won't stand a chance. Because I think it would be truly disappointing if Oda introduced these 9 unknown ultra powerful characters this late in the story that then would just end up kind of like Kaido's Tobi Roppo, who in the end didn't make that much of an impact in the story. However, looking at from the other side, could they be even stronger? I mean, since Dragon seems to see these 9 as the ultimate force of the world governments, there's a pretty good chance that these might be even stronger than, yes, the Admirals. Which, you know, when you think about it, might make sense given that many of the strongest Marines, including the likes of Aokiji and Akainu himself, don't really like doing the dirty work of the world nobles. So if many of the Marines actually flipped sides to join Luffy during the final battle, having not only the Seraphim, but a whole new group of godlike warriors that fight for Imu and the world nobles, that would make a whole lot of sense, I think. But now let's put on our theory hats, because from the images that we got in this chapter, plus other clues that we can pull from the actual storyline, I think we can paint a pretty decent picture of who these insanely strong knights could actually be. Starting, obviously, with this one right here, who could very well be Shanks' long-lost brother or father. I mean, just the silhouette here alone has a lot of striking similarities, such as a similar body type, clothing, and even a similar sword. So unless these knights are actually shapeshifters, then this guy is probably somehow related to the red-haired emperor. And before you guys go crazy in the comments, just remember that Shanks is actually from the Figureland family, which, as we explain in my complete story of Shanks video, means that he was most likely a celestial dragon that got then separated from his family. So what if the Figureland family had another son, maybe even a twin, who became one of the whole Holy Knights. Or another super interesting idea here is that what if the Holy Knights all are from the Figureland family? Kind of like a single overpowered family who protected the celestial dragons. But wait, there is even more mind-blowing evidence for this idea, and it comes from chapter 907. And that is the very famous scene of Shanks meeting with the 5 elders. So hear me out here for a second. What if this wasn't actually Shanks, but instead it was his identical brother? And damn, this would go a long way towards explaining one of the most controversial and mysterious scenes in the entire story. Do I even need to tell you how many crazy videos were spawned from this one scene? Shanks is evil, the history of evil Shanks. Shanks is using Luffy. Honestly, this scene broke the fan base, and we have yet to get a real explanation for it. We never knew how Shanks got in or why the Gorosei would agree to meet him in the first place, but now it is entirely possible that Oda was just toying with us all this time because it wasn't even Shanks, but his brother slash father slash twin, whatever you want. And I mean, in this scene, we never actually hear the elders call this person by a name, and we never see the scar or the missing arm. And if this was a Holy Knight, it would make sense that the Gorosei would agree to meet with them. But that is not even the end of the evidence, because in an interview with Japanese TV that my friend Archer from the Library of Ohara translated on his website, the author of One Piece was actually asked if Shanks is actually 2 different people. Yeah, someone asked him that. And this was asked with the context that Shanks seems to be able to move very quickly around the world, like when he stopped Kaido from coming to Marineford, and then only shortly after showing up at the war himself with his crew. And it does look like Oda-sensei actually answered the question, but it was censored from the show. So that could mean that this theory is entirely possible. I mean, if it wasn't true, wouldn't he just have come out and said no? I mean, no harm with that, right? But with all the incredible speculation about this Shanks-looking knight, what about all the other Holy Knights? Well, we can see that one of them here wears some sort of hat, cowboy hat maybe, or like a big one, and this one here seems to have horns. So what if the Holy Knights are actually somehow related to the other Yonko, such as Kaido and Big Mom? I mean, Kaido certainly has horns, and Big Mom used to wear a similar looking hat to this one. However, of course, they can't all be related like Shanks and his potential twin, but now that makes me wonder if there might be actually clones of other strong pirates. And I mean, with everything going on Egghead Island, cloning is certainly a possibility that was around over 20 years ago. But at this point, we've thrown out 3 Emperors of the Sea as possible members of these Holy Knights, but now let's raise the stakes even higher. Because what would you say if I told you that some of the most legendary figures from the past, such as Joy Boy himself, were a part of the Holy Knights? Don't believe me? Gotta keep watching. Okay, so in chapter 906, we first meet this mysterious cloaked figure, Imu, who we later learn is the secret ruler of the entire world. And after they climb this ridiculously large staircase, they arrive at some sort of secret chamber that is ice cold. Here we see the famous image of his frozen straw hat, which has led to an even greater host of theories about Joy Boy and this mysterious king. But one possibility that I want to throw out here is that this freezer is actually where the Holy Knights live, and that some of them are the preserved fighters from the ancient past. Now, there are a few pieces of evidence to support this idea, such as the zombie fighters from Thriller Bark being frozen to preserve their bodies as well. Plus, Imu is ascending these massive stairs almost like they're ascending into heaven to reach the Holy Knights. But the most compelling piece of evidence is this image right here. Directly above the frozen straw hat is this image of a cross-looking symbol. Now, what exactly this symbol is, we don't exactly know yet, but it is very similar to that of the World Government Cross and a famous symbol of the Knights Templar, which of course we will also be discussing in more detail in just a few minutes. And if this is actually a symbol that represents the Holy Knights, then that would mean that each of these little alcoves in this freezer could be the resting place of one of these knights. Alright, but that was a lot of wild speculation, admittedly, from just this little detail. Man, it's just too much fun, and part of the reason that we read One Piece in the first place, right? However, we are not quite done with the Holy Knights yet, because there are even more connections to famous characters in the story. For example, Mihawk could well be a former Holy Knight himself. I mean, he's always had a heavy Christian religious theme going on, and as someone on Twitter pointed out, his markings on his famous giant sword Yoru are actually kinda similar to the markings on Imu's empty throne. And of course, he has the same ring-shaped eyes, and we have no idea what his origin story is or how he even became the strongest swordsman in One Piece in the first place. The former warlord Bartholomew Kuma is another character with ties to Christian religion, since he used to carry around his giant Bible. So was he a Holy Knight in the past as well? Did he go around smacking the gospel into enemies of the world governments? Then there's of course also the idea that the Holy Knights could be descendants of the Lunarians, the race that used to live on top of the Grand Line, who were called gods, but there is not really that much evidence for that right now, especially since we were just introduced to the Seraphim, who are also all based on the Lunarians. But moving on, it is now time to throw on your history hat on top of your theory hat, because we're going to do a short detour down everyone's favorite rabbit hole: religious symbolism in One Piece. And that's because the first thing that I thought when I heard about these Holy Knights was the legendary Knights Templar, and probably you too, which was of course also inspiration for the thumbnail that I think turned out pretty nicely. Now, this was a famous group of religious warriors who fought for Christianity in the Holy Land, which was Jerusalem in medieval Europe. And there are a few truly interesting connections between the Knight Templar and the Holy Knights. First off, the Templars were supposedly founded by 9 original members, which included warriors as well as monks. Which makes me wonder if we could see some non-fighters with the Holy Knights as well. On top of that, in the Bible, the number 9 symbolizes divine completeness or conveys the meaning of finality. There are also the obvious similarities between the Templars' red cross symbol and the world government's cross. So basically, what I'm reading into all of this is that the world government is really some massive cult that took over the world. Oh no, Luffy, please save us all. And on top of all that, the Templars' duty was to protect travelers visiting the Holy Land, but that's a little bit twisted in the story because now these Holy Knights are protecting these so-called gods. But the Templars themselves aren't the only major symbol related to these 9 Holy Knights. And we might actually be able to figure out some more about the Knights just based on the number 9 itself. First, there are 9 Rio poneglyphs which supposedly tell the true history of the world, so could these Knights be somehow related to the true history? Plus, in Japanese culture, 9 is actually sometimes considered to be an unlucky number because it contains the character ku, which means pain or suffering. You might be familiar with the entire, wordplay thing from the big theory video I made. So maybe the Knights are in constant pain or are meant to protect the gods from pain, or are pain themselves. And in the past, 9 was also a number associated with the Japanese emperor, who was considered to be divine, basically a god. So for a while, it was actually considered taboo for normal people to use the number 9. Which now actually brings us all the way to Buddhism, which also has strong ties to the number 9 that might actually tell us a bit more about the powers or personalities of these 9 Holy Knights. For one, in Buddhism, there are the 9 holy qualities of the Buddha, sharing ethical morality, patience, renunciation, wisdom, diligence, truthfulness, determination, loving kindness, and equanimity. Now, these 9 could all be hints about the Knights' characters, and another branch of their faith has something called the 9 consciousnesses of Buddhism, which are basically 9 states of being and awareness. Now, the first 5 states are basically the 5 senses: touch, taste, sight, smell, and hearing. The 6th one involves your brain processing these senses into meaningful information. The 7th state involves becoming aware of one's inner thoughts. The 8th state is sometimes called a storehouse containing all of a person's thoughts, words, feelings, and deeds throughout their lifetime. And actually, this state is also said to persist even after death, so Brooks matchup, anyone? And finally, the 9th final state is basically the Buddha state, is when someone rids themselves of all the negative karma and one's soul can finally coexist peacefully with all other life forms. Whew, okay, there is a lot to unpack here, but maybe I'll make a future video comparing the Straw Hats to each one of the 9 states to see if we can figure out who they match up against in a future battle. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss that. Okay, but now that we've spent way too much time breaking down this new exciting group of fighters, there is a lot that has happened in this chapter that's also worth talking about. So let's discuss everything else that happened and how it will completely change the One Piece world forever. So during the flashback at the Reverie, we see Cobra, the King of Alabasta, about to meet with the 5 elders. And now at this point, we do know that Cobra was assassinated by someone and that Luffy's brother Sabo was framed for killing this king. And before he goes into this meeting, Cobra tells his guards that they should take care of his daughter Vivi. And now, why would he say this? Well, the obvious answer is that he was expecting to not come out of this room alive, which is exactly what happened. But let's actually back up a little bit, because I think the reason that Cobra went to talk to the Goroseis in the first place was because government agents had already captured Vivi. Now, why did they capture Vivi? Well, back in chapter 908, we see Imu holding a picture of Vivi, and then the elders asking who Imu would like to have erased from history. So basically, they did want to have Vivi taken out for some reason, but now back to Cobra, he probably knew that his daughter had been taken, and so he goes to confront the elders, which of course would lead to his eventual death. However, that is not the end-all be-all to this, because later we see 𝙬𝚎 reacting to Cobra's death as well. Now, this is presumably when the picture to frame 𝙬𝚎 was taken, but as we know, 𝙬𝚎 was probably able to rescue Vivi at some point as well, as she's now with Morgans. But I'm also wondering if the Gorosei had another reason for killing Cobra. I mean, he wasn't their original target, so unless it was an accident, there has to be some other reason that they killed him, because killing a king would throw the world into even more chaos. But really, the only reason that I can think of is that Cobra knows something about the Void Century and the Forbidden History, and he threatened to reveal it unless the government freed Vivi. Remember that the Alabaster Kingdom is the only one of the original 20 kingdoms that chose to stay on their island when the other ones went up to live on Marijua. Plus, Alabaster was guarding a poneglyph, so that might mean that they were somehow related to the ancient kingdom. As a result, it does make sense to me that Cobra would have some other secret information that the elders would want to keep quiet. And I don't know about you all, but I'm literally as excited as Gojo is with a new box as we get closer to finally learning the secrets of the Void Century. And honestly, this is just another example of the corruption of the world government, which is the exact reason why the Revolutionary Army has made it their mission to take down the Celestial Dragons. And as we see, the revolutionaries are finally moving forward with their plans, because in this chapter we learn that they declared war by burning the world government's flag at Marijua, just like Luffy did 2 years earlier at Enies Lobby. Dragon must have been so proud. But unlike my boy Kakashi, these guys are definitely not being sneaky, because there was also a massive battle between the strongest fighters of the Revolutionary Army and 2 Marine admirals. Now, we already know the flame powers of Sabo, the gravity powers of Fujitora, and the forest abilities of Green Bull, but this chapter also revealed more about one of the most mysterious fruits in the entire story. This guy here is called Karasu, who can turn himself into a flock of crows. And he can use these crows like bullets as he shoots them at Fujitora. And we even get an official name for this fruit, which is the Susususunomi, or the soot fruit. So are these even crows at all, or are crows just Karasu's vibe and he's actually a Logia fruit user? The giant Okama Morley also shows some impressive fighting ability when he damaged Green Bull with his trident. And at this point, the revolutionaries are looking pretty good, but everyone is really tough until the Gravity Man whips out the ultimate attack, which unfortunately we didn't get to see the end of here. And while this fight didn't result in any major casualties, the whole situation just continued to pour gas onto the dumpster fire that is the world government at the moment, because for the first time the world government truly appears to be losing their grip on the world. Kingdoms are rebelling, pirates and revolutionaries are declaring war, they're even going to lose their scientific genius Dr. Vegapunk, and not one but 2 people, Vivi and this guy who I really hope to never see again, have escaped with knowledge about what really happened at the Reverie. And on top of all that, someone is going to find the One Piece very soon, which means that the world government secrets are going to be spilled. But of course they aren't going to give up without a fight, and as with any evil world power, they will surely become desperate enough to keep their secrets and powers, and who knows, maybe they will finally unleash their ruthless fleet admiral to burn the pirate world to the ground. So if you're an innocent person living in a world government kingdom right now, I would seriously consider finding a deserted island and hiding until this epic war is over. Especially because Blackbeard is closer than ever to finding the One Piece, and he's basically guaranteed to be clashing with either Luffy or Shanks, or maybe both at the same time. And if you want to know how that would go, you can watch that video right here. Thanks for watching.